Hi, I'm CJ Altenberg with Transwest Truck Trailer RV in Frederick, Colorado. So today we're going to go over a 2021 Cimarron 3-horse gooseneck. But this is one of my favorite tack setups that we've been doing. We do it on a 3-horse, a 4-horse. We've done it on some bigger trailers. We've done it on some stock combos, but it's a closet tack setup. And this is such a good setup for those of you that might want to spend a night in the front dressing room of this. You don't want to smell, your saddles, your blankets, all your tack. If you want to keep a front dressing room a little bit cleaner if you're showing out of this type of a trailer. But this is just a really nice setup from the standpoint of the closet tack is a separate tack room. Again, it's all sealed off, but it's not like a mid-tack where we end up adding a substantial length to the trailer, making it longer. Typically, when you get into a full mid-tack, you're adding about 4 to 5 foot length to the trailer, to where on our typical setups in these 3s and 4 horses, we're anywhere from a 3.5 foot short wall to maybe a 4 foot short wall. On this setup here, we added 1 foot. So it's a 5 foot short wall, but really we didn't lengthen the trailer substantially. I mean, we're talking 19.3 on the floor. So again, very, very easy to get around in this trailer. Nose to tail, you're under you're about 27.5 feet. We're 7'1" tall, we're 6'10" wide. Those are the standard heights and widths on Cimarrons. And then from there we can move into, wider options, taller options. But this has just become such a popular setup for us and such a good seller. The other thing too is, like we talked about, it's not a big trailer. It's about just over 4,800 pounds empty. So, some of these newer pickups, I mean, you can get even into the half-ton pickups. The newer ones are rated plenty to handle this, as long as it's got an integrated brake controller, or if you add an aftermarket brake controller to it to run the electric brakes on this trailer. We won't let you leave if you don't have that. So let's take a look at this, because again, I like the setup because again, we're not making it a massive trailer, but it's got a lot of nice features to it. In fact, we were getting this trailer to be so popular in a 3 and a 4 horse, and people wanting to upgrade to a hydraulic jack. So one of the very first things you're looking at underneath here, we've just gone ahead and done that on one of these trailers. The other one that we have on order is just going to have our standard manual hand crank jack, but on this one here, we opted to upgrade to put the electric over hydraulic equalizer jack, battery box battery. On the 2022 models, the battery disconnect will become standard, but we like to go ahead and we were optioning them on these 21s just because we don't want a light left on, draining the battery when you go to hook up or anything like that. So when you park this trailer, you can turn that kill switch to off. The trailer's not going to be pulling any power from this battery, so it should stay nice and charged for you. So by doing that, again, we just continued to have customers wanting to upgrade to this. So we said, hey, let's just go ahead and let's make one in inventory so it's done. Now, another thing that we usually do is this spare is usually located down lower on these trailers. And on a manual hand crank setup, it's perfectly fine. It works. We have the space for it. But when we get into this setup with the electric over hydraulic, we have a bulkier cover on this. Then we're having to deal with clearance. So Cimarron's gone ahead and they've moved this spare tire up so it's clear out of the way. I know it is higher, so getting on and off you are having to deal with that, but let's be honest. Let's hope you're not having to do this on a continual basis. If so, we've got some other issues going on, maybe an alignment, something along those lines. But, we're hoping you're not having to change your spare often, so it's okay having it up a little bit higher. Now moving forward, we had a rep here last week with Cimarron. We discussed this a little bit more. On these trailers, we're actually going to go ahead, even if it's a manual crank jack, we're going to locate this spare higher. Now on our wider trailers, when we get into 7'6", 8 foot wide, it's not as big of a deal because we're dealing with more trailer width wise. We're going to continue to keep that spare low so it's a little bit easier getting on and off. But it is tucked out of the way. It is easier getting in and out of here when you are hooked up to a pickup. You have your tailgate down, but again, now we're not having to relocate this. So again, we're going to do that. So if the trailer you're looking at doesn't have one of these setups already on there, and we go to change it, we're not having to relocate the spare. That adds a little bit more time, a little bit more cost from a labor standpoint. So just trying to cross all of our, you know, the old saying, cross all your T's, your lowercase, dot all your lowercase J's, you know, whatever that is. So now let's get into the tack setup here. So again, it's a 5-foot short wall, but so we've lengthened it 1 foot, but really we haven't, again, lengthened this trailer quite a bit. And you can see this back tack room here. So the one on the left here is our tack room. As you can see, 3-tier saddle rack. Since it's a 3-horse, it comes standard with 3, or 4-horse would come standard with 4. But we carpet the whole thing. We put bridle hooks in there so tack's not, you know, swaying against this aluminum sheeting, creating noise, scuffing up your tack, scuffing up the wall. We like to carpet these tack rooms if possible. These saddle pads are adjustable too. We can move them up and down. You can space them out, whatever you want to there. We've also got a roof vent up there. And the reason why the roof vent is we don't have a window on the tack door here. So if you are wanting to kind of air that out as you're driving or you're at home, you can open that 2-way vent. We tried to kind of offset it from the saddle rack itself, but that way you can air this out a little bit more. Corner water tank for you, 25-gallon. It's just gravity feed. This way you can always carry water on board with you. If you have a finicky horse that only likes water from home, if you're going to a trailhead, if you're headed to a show and it's a long ways over to a hydrant to get water, you know, you've got water right here to fill up a bucket. The other thing too is, you know, we always have to keep in mind and be prepared. I mean, what if we get, you know, on I-25 here, it's Denver, there's an accident up ahead and you're stuck on the road. I mean, it does happen from time to time where we're sitting on the side of the road, or we're in a traffic jam, or we're waiting to check in and we need some water. Well, we've got water available right here on the trailer. We put this big 42-inch door on here. So again, making it easy getting in and out with our saddles. But we put a 4-tier blanket bar rack. It's on a gas shock so it swivels out. Brush tray on the door for those little miscellaneous items. And then a step. You can see we put steps on each of these tack doors. And why that's so nice and handy is because when you go to load, you know, take a saddle off your pads here or put them back on, man, it's nice to have this step. It's a little easier transition. We understand some of these saddles are heavy and try to make it as easy as possible. And then we went ahead and put one on the front dressing room door. So again, this is a front dressing room. We did put a couple things in here for you. But again, if you're looking for somewhere to keep things nice and clean, you want to spend the night in here, you can throw a mattress, some bed rolls, anything like that up in the nose. You've got some windows so you can see out, create a cross breeze through here. This is an insulated roof, so it'll keep the stall area about 20% cooler than aluminum sheeted roofs. Well, that comes into play in here too. So this is that insulated roof will keep this area cooler if you are staying in here. There is actually, as well on these, we go ahead and frame for an AC unit. So we would have to put a 30-amp package to this for power and then add the AC, but the framing's already done. So again, one less thing we've got to do if you want to make that upgrade. It saves us time, it saves us labor, it saves you money. So we go ahead and do that. You've got a boot box that goes all the way across. It's 12 inches deep. Works as a great step jumping up into the gooseneck, but also for those little miscellaneous items that might float around as you're driving down the road. And around the corner, because it's kind of an L shape, so we try to take advantage of some of this. We put a shelf with a clothes rod. Again, if you're showing out of this, you're traveling, you want to take some items, there's a lip to this, so it will keep items from sliding out. And again, you've got kind of a blank canvas here. I mean, we've had some customers go in and add additional shelving. I mean, they've gone in and put a cabinet in here. I mean, there's things that you can do with this setup after the fact and kind of make it your own. And then we did, on the partition wall between this and the tack room, we went ahead and put carpet with some hooks. These are aluminum that have been powder coated. So they are really stout, but again, just trying to give you some things to work with here. Again, we wanted to carpet it behind it so things aren't rubbing against that aluminum sheeting. And one thing we also did is we put a load light, one of these 16-inch awning lights, between these two doors, because we understand you're going to be working in and out of here. You want some light coverage. So that's in between the switches on the back. There are LED lights in that front dressing room and this tack room that are on individual switches as well. So you've got some light coverage there. I'm going to go ahead and shut this door. So this tack door here is going to have two latches, and there's a reason for that. So we have a regular door latch, but then we have a butterfly latch that goes across. Well, the reason why that is, and I'll show you here on this front door as well, you got to think about as you're driving down the road, and if this door pops open, you know, we're naturally going down the road, so the wind is going to keep the door for the most part against the trailer. So if this one comes open, it's hinged the other way, so it's going to want to swing that way. So this paddle latch is just one additional latch here that we like to put on these, just for that reason, one more safety. Because if this guy gets a hold of wind and it's not shut properly, I mean, we're going to put a lot of torque on it because it's going to catch a lot of wind. It's a big, heavy-duty door, so we don't want to damage anything. You also have the fold-up steps, and honestly, those guys are more than likely just going to keep that door shut as it is. As we kind of work our way to more of the horse area here, you've got three big bus windows. Cimarron really tries to utilize as much space as they can, creating a lot of airflow through these. So these are big bus windows. You'll see some competitors have some smaller bus windows. They're a little cheaper, they're a little easy, you know, they don't have to frame quite as much because they're Cimarron's going in and bulking up this framework on these big windows. So you'll see some smaller windows on some other trailers where we can get a lot more airflow through here. So you're combining these type of items that Cimarron does, that standard insulated roof that we'll kind of talk a little bit more about when we get in the stall area, and then the drop windows as well, creating a lot of airflow through here. So here we've got two 6,000-pound rubber torsion Dexter axles, more than enough axle underneath this trailer. 16-inch wheels, aluminum wheels are standard. You'll notice the green tabs. That means these are nitrogen filled. Nitrogen has become extremely popular here over the last couple of years. About every tire, you know, distribution center, anything like that, if you go to their shops, more than likely they can put nitrogen to your tires. That's what the green tab means. Why that's important is because air can fluctuate drastically in PSI levels, which will cause, if we have a low tire, it'll heat up, potentially causing a blowout. For the nitrogen, it limits it to about 1 to 2 pounds of fluctuation. If you do have a slow leak, if you caught a nail or a screw, anything like that, you can put air to it, get to where you need to. That's not a problem. But if you want it to be that nitrogen filled, you'll have to go back to a tire center to do that. This is a setup. The nitrogen filled is what they use on about every airplane out there, especially the big commercial airliners that are flying us all over the country. Because again, think about the altitude difference we're going from, you know, as they're flying, temperature difference, and they're finding that these nitrogen filled, they're not having, you know, any type of issues there. The other thing too is you get a 1-year no questions asked warranty on these tires. So again, like I mentioned, a nail, a screw, anything like that, if it cannot be patched, you take some pictures of some date codes and some information off these sidewalls of the tires. You send it into Lion's Head, who is Cimarron's wheel and tire vendor, and within a couple days they'll send you a new tire. So they stand behind it, no questions asked. You have a blowout, anything like that, they're going to send you a new tire. But it's important for you to get a picture of the tire, get a picture of those codes so we can get that into them. If something does happen, or if you catch this fender on something, this is a bolt-on fender too. So again, like I mentioned about the spare framing for the AC, since this is bolt-on, it's not going to take near as long and cost you near as much to replace. If it's a weld-on, they got to cut it off. They've got to put the new one on, re-weld it. Where this is bolt-on, bolt-off. So the technicians will be able to work a little bit quicker on that if you get into those scenarios there. Let's work to the back of the trailer. We have a 60-40 rear door setup. And the reason why 60-40 is because a lot of times loading and unloading horses, more than likely your left-hand door is probably going to be closed the whole time. So we wanted the right-hand door to have a little bit more space getting horses in and out. Obviously, when you open this up, I mean, it's nice, inviting, it's wide open. We've got a lot of customers, couples that want to use this trailer now as dual purpose. Why have multiple trailers sitting around when we can potentially use this as a little toy hauler as well? We can add a rear ramp to this for loading. So we can remove that rubber bumper, attach it to it, folds up over the rear doors. Maybe you got a horse that likes to load and offload with ramps. Well, again, we can do that. There's a lot of things we can do to these trailers after the fact. Add a hay rack, add a ladder to get up there. Don't have to worry about the hydraulic jack, that's done. But as we get back in here to the stall area, we'll kind of go over a couple things. So this is kind of a standard setup, but here at Transwest, I mean, nothing is standard. We add options to every single trailer. Now, some more than others, but we always try to go in and add a few things. So this stud divider at number 1 is standard on this setup that we're looking at. Pads are not standard. You can go in, we can add pads to these as well. But you're talking about a nice heavy duty solid divider here. This is the same extrusion you see on the outside of the trailer, stock trailers, anything like that. So it's big, heavy, and stout. Everything has a radius to it on these dividers, and then the stall area too. Horse safety is number 1. We don't want sharp 90-degree angles. We don't want things protruding out from the wall. We want things quiet. So that's where this paddle latch comes into play. This is a heavy UHMW plastic, so we don't have this metal to metal contact creating a rattle, creating a lot of noise. And then it's recessed in this aluminum piece that's powder coated behind this big heavy duty kick mat. You're going to have 48 inches on head side kick mat, 54 inches tall, just below the windows on the hip wall here. They've also got a nice big spring on the bottom of these. I'm just going to release this. Again, this trailer is kind of slanted towards the passenger side, but what I'm going to do is release this, and this spring is actually, I'm going to actually slow it down a little bit because it will go. But that spring wants to pull it towards the driver's side. So again, horse safety and your safety, Cimarron's is what they have in mind. So when you're loading and offloading, we don't want to be having to hold a divider that's wanting to kind of swing and flop around. It's out of the way now. The other thing too, in this rear stall, we like to add a little bit of length. Well, this length does obviously put a little bit more floor to the trailer, but what's so important is if you've got a real big bodied horse, you know, this last stall is going to be a little bit wider for them, but more importantly, we can open these dividers and shove them against the wall, and we can shut these back doors. There are a lot of competitors that'll go out there, and this divider will hit about this point right here where you can shut the back doors, and you're just wasting a lot of space. Well, now if you're hauling those toys, or you're needing this thing to be wide open for maybe a mare and a foal you're hauling, now these are against the wall. We're not having to remove dividers in order to shut the back doors in those type of scenarios. So we talked a little bit about the roof up front. Again, it's a heavy it's a heavy insulated roof. It's a 1/2 inch thick. It's got an R3 thermal value to it. It will take substantial hail. We've already seen that here in Colorado this year. Some small stuff, nothing big. Hopefully that's the end of it. But they will take big hail. I can walk on these, I can jump on them and won't dent the roof. But again, more importantly, it keeps everything back here nice and cool. And with these drop windows, 3 two-way roof vents, because it's a 3-horse, 3 standard. Again, create a lot of airflow through here, keeping the horses nice and comfortable. Let's talk about the floor, because the floor is the most important thing. To me, that's where the trailer starts. That's where quality shows its head. First thing to do if you're ever looking at all aluminum trailers is, if you want to know how well they're built, look at the floor. Get down on your hands and knees, crawl underneath and look. Because what happens is is there's centers. So they look like little I-beams that run across the trailer the full length. And what happens is some manufacturers will have their centers spread further apart, which means not as much material, shouldn't cost as much to build. But what happens is, if we have a 12-inch center and you have a horse standing there in between them, well, they're just standing on basically an aluminum sheet that a lot of companies use and just tack weld from the bottom, to where Cimarron uses an extruded piece. It's a 12-inch deck, but it's not 12-inch centers, they're 4-inch centers. So now if we go from 12 inches to 4 inches and we have a horse standing on that, they're standing on a support beam anywhere they're standing in this stall area. So much stouter floor, it locks in. It's kind of like a big Lego set when they start putting these trailers together. As they put it together, it just continues to gain strength as it's being built. But industry's best floor that we're standing on right here in these Cimarron trailers. The other thing is these are such stout doors. Now, not as much on this left door I'm going to show you. They're all built the same, but on this right door, this will give you a good visual. Between this window and the edge of that door, that's all framework. So that left-hand door is the same framework, but you can see it here because of the windows in this one. But that's all frame. That is such a stout door that they took a floor jack on a 3-horse just like this, put it out here, picked up the back of the trailer, didn't tweak the door, didn't tweak those hinges, and literally picked the back of the trailer up with that door and those hinges. So those are welded hinges with grease zerks, so you can maintain them, keep them, you know, just everything moving nice and smooth over its time. But that's the kind of strength we're talking about. Believe me, there's a lot of other manufacturers that we would not attempt that to, or we're gonna have to be replacing a lot of hinges, tweaking a door, doing some other damage, and we don't want to do that. But that's how well built these guys are. Not to mention on the drop windows too. Same thing, that's all framework. A lot of manufacturers will use a piano style hinge with, sometimes they don't even have any frames. It's just a black window that folds down, and you can literally just manipulate it and flop it around in your hands without having to do anything. For these are so big and stout, you can literally shake the entire trailer with one of these. So you can crank on it and it's perfectly fine. Those prefab windows or smaller framed windows, think about this, if these are down and a horse hits it and breaks it, well, you're having to replace a window. And believe me, with supplier issues right now, you're gonna be waiting a long time for a window and you're gonna pay a premium for them. But they're big, heavy duty. They shut so nice. Everything can be locked. So everything on this Cimarron, with exception of the battery box, has one key. So that's a different style latch up there, but everything, all these drop windows, back doors, tacks, everything has one key. Now, down the road, we are working on that with a different battery box that will have the same key as these. So we're gonna use this style of a latch, but you'll see those on the 22 models coming. You do have a drop window on the escape door. Again, some manufacturers will just put a bus window here. This was able to drop. Now this front one's not near as big of drop windows as 2 and 3, but it's because we have a door. We have to frame for the door. We have to bring everything in a little bit more. But again, you do have an escape door, which I am a big fan of, especially with these stud dividers, because if you're not hauling 3-head all the time, this is a great additional place for storage. Haul some hay, haul some shavings, haul some muck buckets. You can throw your cooler in there, some folding chairs, anything like that. We can access it as we're going down the road. We're not having to crawl in through horses, anything like that. Access it at a gas station, but that stud divider makes sure things don't get underneath that horse as we're traveling. Now, this is a similar setup to that the closet tack, where we have a latch, and then we've got, again, a butterfly latch that goes over it. And the reason why this one's here is because if you have a horse in this first stall and they like to play with stuff, we don't want them opening this door as you're going down the road. So just one more safety measure that Cimarron's done there. But as you can see, this is such a cool setup. Again, we're not making the trailer massive. But again, if you want that separate tack area, these closet tack trailers have become so popular over the last couple years, and that's why we've kind of mixed it up on some different options, whether it's a stock combo, this 3-horse, a 4-horse, we built some 5s. I mean, we can do about anything with this setup here. But if you're interested in this trailer, I'll give you the information on it. Again, it's a 2021 Cimarron Norstar 3-horse gooseneck with closet tack. Stock number is 5N201301. So we've got more of these coming. Again, we've got them in some different setups as well, but give us a call. This one's available today. Those others, you can put your name on them. Depending on where they're at in the order, we can maybe make some tweaks for you, kind of personalizing the trailer. If it's getting close, we probably can't do that, but you can put your name on it. But give us a call. Anybody on the sales team can help you out with any of that. 303-684-3400. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good day.